This episode is sponsored by Eternal Ink and Machine Co. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Books Closed. I'm Andrew Stortz, and this is a very special episode. You're about to hear an interview that was done 15 years ago, and not by me. This is an interview with Lyle Tuttle that past guest of the show, Taki Kitamura, had conducted, and I had to pull this thing off of cassette tapes. I'm talking cassette tapes. Side A, Side B, you know what I'm saying, or maybe you don't. A few months ago, Taki had mentioned to me that he had this interview with Lyle that was just sitting on a shelf, and no one has ever really heard it, and he asked if I would be interested in sharing it on the podcast. It was a no-brainer to me because that's an opportunity that you don't get every day, to hear candid conversation with someone like Lyle Tuttle. I'll share with you now a little precursor to this interview that Taki emailed to me the other day. He says, "My interview with Lyle Tuttle. The recent passing of tattoo legend Lyle Tuttle had me reminiscing about the time I visited him at his home in Ukiah 15 years ago. I was working on a book project, one that was never completed, and wanted to interview Lyle about his life and his expert opinion in defining traditional tattoo motifs. I was welcomed into Lyle's home and immediately offered a drink at 11 a.m., thanks to the introductory phone call from Ed Hardy, who was adamant that I get Lyle's perspective. Lyle was the most gracious of hosts and interviewees, and the day will be one I will remember fondly forever. Years passed and I forgot about the tapes laying dormant in my bookshelf. For every book or project I've successfully completed, at least a dozen fall by the wayside. At least in this case, the tape can finally be published and reach the audience that it should. I'm excited to share this interview on such a great platform and hope that it will provide some comfort for those missing Lyle, as well as an insight into his hilarious personality and vast knowledge for those who never had the pleasure of meeting him. He truly was one of the great characters of tattooing and will never be forgotten. Thank you, Andrew and Books Closed, for sharing this bit of tattoo history." Well, thank you, Taki, because you're the one that's doing a great thing here. This was a really fun interview to listen to as I put this together, and it's a little bit all over the place. You can kind of tell that Lyle's rummaging through things in whatever room that they were in and showing Taki a bunch of stuff as they went. And it's just super relaxed, and I think it's a great window into the person that was Lyle Tuttle. So let's transport back now 15 years. So we're going to call it 2004 was when this was recorded on cassette tapes. The audio recording gear that I have available to me now certainly wasn't available back then. So let's cut Taki some slack. So here we go. Here's Lyle Tuttle, The Lost Tapes. But wait. 1 second, just before we start, here are a few words from this week's sponsors. A big thank you to Eternal Ink for sponsoring this episode. You've heard about Eternal Ink quality. It's time to experience it. Have you been tempted to try Eternal Ink? Their 12-color sample set is a great way to experience the remarkable quality of Eternal Inks. With these 12 hues, you'll have all the primary colors, the secondary colors, and more. If you've never used Eternal Ink, this is the perfect intro to the eternal world of color. Sample sets include white, lining black, lipstick red, bright orange, dark brown, caramel, bumblebee, lime green, robin egg, true blue, light purple, and light magenta. And I can say from experience, I've used many of these colors for many years, and they are great. And I'm not just saying that because Eternal Ink is saying nice things about me. And an even better reason to give them a go if you have not yet is that if you head over to eternaltattoosupply.com right now, they are offering a 20% discount off their full retail price on all Eternal Ink colors when you use the promo code BOOKSCLOSED at checkout. This offer includes both single bottles and full sets in all available sizes. It excludes combination with other offers, and it's not to be used with the Color of the Week promotion. So again, head over to eternaltattoosupply.com, use the promo code BOOKSCLOSED at checkout, and get 20% off the purchase of all of your Eternal Ink colors. Are you feeling lost, hopeless, unsure what to do about spring breaks? And I'm not talking about your annual vacation to Myrtle Beach. I'm talking about when your spring snaps in two while you're tattooing. Don't just give up and trade all your coil machines for rotaries. Machine is here to give you the goods, offering online video workshops to professional tattooers that will teach machine function, differences between liners and shaders, and a better understanding of the physics behind springs and their relation to frame geometry. Don't be ashamed that you're holding something in your hand every day that you know nothing about. This is an opportunity for all you tattooers to up your game and get in control of your equipment. There are no enrollment periods anymore, so sign up now and start your course today. Use code BOOKSCLOSED when signing up to get $50 off. It's all happening now at machinemachine.co. Don't forget to use coupon code BOOKSCLOSED for $50 off, and stay up to date with course information by following at machinemachine.co on Instagram.
Okay, so I'd actually like to start just from the very beginning, just born and raised kind of stuff, and go from there.
Well, first of all, they called it the, Precambrian period. Oh, God. I told this story so fucking many times.
I know, I'm sorry. I just need to get it.
You got to flip-flop around. I think it's some of the reasons that you exaggerate in some stories is you're just doing it to entertain yourself. Well, like I was raised in this house here. And when well, it was from the 5th grade, but that's far back. They, if you saw a tattoo around Ukiah here, it was hot shit. And if you picked up a magazine and spotted a tattoo or something, it was hot shit. I mean, it was just, tattooing was just non-existent. And if it was, people would talk bad about it. Even people that wore them. You know, they just sort of maybe been beat down by social pressure or something. I did a small book called Historic and Patriotic Tattoos, and in that I wound up explaining about the syndrome of why people back then that with their tattoos would get turned off on them and be sorry of them and make excuses of why they got the goddamn thing in like almost temporary insanity or something. It's not that way nowadays, but so I don't know, I was just attracted to it, and it was just, Jack London said that show me a man with a tattoo and you'll find somebody with a rich and interesting past or something. So it meant when I saw a tattoo on somebody, I knew that somebody had been all the way to Frisco, and it was like, I think of them as travel marks. I think of my tattoos as drunken Yokohama tattoos. Going to somebody and making an appointment and working the design out with the artist who is going to take and look into your psyche to make and do the design to that. I mean, that's horse shit. You go pick a tattoo out, or you see one, or it doesn't make a damn what it is, but you commemorate a situation, a bonding of some kind, possibly with a woman or comrades or something. So I mean, they have some meaning. They're more than a pretty picture on the skin. So at 14, I called it my first escape out of here. But it wasn't. My parents knew that I was going down on the Greyhound bus to San Francisco, and they trusted me enough at that young age.
What year was this? Just
1946.
1946. Okay, just to get a reference.
You know, I mean, World War II was just over. I mean, San Francisco Market Street was crowded with servicemen. There was zillions of people in servicemen there. And I went down there, and on that trip, I wound up running across the tattoo shop and looked in the door, and bingo, I had a tattoo on me so fast it made my head swim. And there was an age limit and everything, but it just, bingo, went right over. And in fact, the age limit I think, just came in 1946. But I was not cognizant of that at all. So I came home and I was like proud as a peacock, you know, with that. Like right there it is, it's a heart with mother. It's got, you know, trespassed upon, but, and you know, this little deal here was right like here.
I can still read it. I can still see what it is.
And your mother, the whole business, you know, and that's, Jesus Christ, that's 58 years old. That's been there for 58 years. So, and that was what I was talking about a little while ago about the tattoo. Well, I guess it was talking to Trace about it, but I see my tattoos with 40 years old or something, and the lines are straight, and the black shading's in there, and it's good. But and then they're simple, they're traditional designs. Yes. I mean, ultra traditional.
Right.
And so, because we prided ourselves on being able to put tattoos on fast. I mean, we were gunfighters in the art department. And so I came back up here and immediately got the sewing needles, thread, and matchstick. And started, putting tattoos on my things. But I had actually done that before. I went to San Francisco and got that tattoo. So maybe I went to San Francisco. It was so damn long ago. I don't know total truth anymore. But, because I guess maybe it was when I came back and I got that first tattoo that's when I started hand poking. But if you went into a tattoo shop in those days and you asked somebody that you want to be a tattoo artist, it was like hitting the brick wall. I mean, you couldn't get hit harder than anything other than a brick wall or a battleship. It wound up that Chris Nelson down in San Francisco years ago, he would, if you asked him a question about tattooing, he would warn you that if you ask another question, that brown paper bag's going over your head, and he wouldn't even allow you to look. And you wasn't hyperventilating, So it had charm, man. I mean, that was charming. So anyhow, I finally, through my father was a general contractor, and it wound up that he was building a school over here in Lake County, 30 miles or so east of here. And the guy that was doing the glazing, this is my daughter Suzanne. Taki, right?
Yes, Taki.
Taki, by God, I got it right the first time. You know what happens is that I never have developed a real memory for names, because at convention stuff, everybody knows my name.
Right.
And they come up and names aren't exchanged. And
I think it's also being the tattooer, because you get customers that are like, hey, and to them it was a big deal getting tattooed.
Sure.
But to you did 5 that day, and they were the second one, and it's part of the job, I think.
I generally say, show me the tattoo, and I'll tell you I'll tell you the conversation we had. And I got a phenomenal memory on that shit. Because I have tattooed in a long time. So that was it. I just, and then when I got home, I remember coming home on the bus that night, Greyhound bus. I went down the Greyhound bus, come back in the Greyhound bus. Didn't leave away from the Greyhound bus station very far either. And then the ironic thing is that I tattooed next to that Greyhound bus station for 29 years, for 29 and a half years, right next to that bus station, closer to the bus station than the place I originally got tattooed in. But I'm just trying to figure out now, that was just a new thought of a correlation. The time is 1946, I got my first tattoo, and then I moved in there in 1960, so that was 16 years later?
Yeah.
16 years?
14 years later.
14 years later.
You would be 28, I believe, if you went there. You said you were 14?
Yeah. I guess I was 28 when I moved in there, because I might have it right here. If not, it's out in the warehouse. I saw that. So it must be out there in the inside. When I did the 25th anniversary of that tattoo shop, I didn't do a closing thing because that Loma Prieta earthquake got it yellow tagged, the building. And I was on the second floor, no reinforcing steel in that building. If that son of a bitch goes down in the accordion, well, screw that. Yeah. So that's the reason I moved out of there. But I didn't have a party, so I couldn't have a couple hundred people up there and a shake happened and kill like a couple hundred people, and I lived. What a lawsuit I'd have on my hands. But anyhow, I had tattooed. It was either 10 or 11 years. I guess it was 11 years, and then had settled into that shop. Then I was there 29 and a half years. And then that thing's been closed for 15 years. I only own a tattoo shop now. Because the one in San Francisco that bears my name is a royalty thing with the name, and then I sold it to Tanya, and you probably met Tanya.
I've seen the shop, yeah.
Yeah, but you met Tanya. She's a blonde-haired German girl.
I actually stopped in there, but she was tattooing, and I don't like to, do that.
Right. And well, then you get stiffed a lot of times. You go into a tattoo shop and you say you're a tattoo artist, and it isn't this bad thing. They generally jump up and kiss you right on the fucking mouth. I mean, they're too peaceful. But back years ago, if you didn't go in and announce you as a tattoo artist, because first of all, any information that they would pass out, because tattooing wasn't in a good light, and business wasn't that good. So you wanting to be a tattoo artist, all you was doing was, it's law of the jungle. It was competition. It's they run all the young males off.
Right.
And then the old male finally gets whipped someday. Yeah. He goes down, but it was the same way. It was competition. And tattooers were like dogs. They would run around and piss on a territory. And that was theirs.
Yeah.
Some people were like within a 50-mile radius. You don't come within 50 miles of me. That's an East Coast thing, but now it's entirely different. They have tattoo suppliers' fucking catalogs in their waiting rooms.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, 'cause you see everything changing. I mean, you've seen it go.
I've seen the whole. I haven't seen. Yeah, I've seen the whole gamut of.
I think
Because tattooing from the turn of the century, 1800s, 1900s, they had like World War I, then they had World War II, and those were booms. But then they starved to death in between, but everybody else did too, because they had the Great Depression.
Right.
But tattooers were better equipped because they could barter. You know, it's like when they go to Mexico, Jack Ruby was going to Mexico, and I says, well, how many goddamn pigs and chickens can you haul back? I've been down there at conventions, but I'm not transporting no pigs and chickens, and they just don't have a good economy. But there's the haves, the have-nots everywhere. So there's the haves find their way there.
Right. Can we talk a bit about some of your travels? Because I mean, you got the Samoa and Japan, and you've pretty much been all over.
Well, I'm the most fortunate guy in the world. I mean, just truthfully, I've had the most fortunate life in the world. There's a few days that I look at it right now, I don't think it's that hot, but just in retrospect, it's been ideal, because, well, I sort of had the idea that when I came home with that first tattoo, it was people treated me like I was stung by the devil. No shit. I mean, I had somebody, my only parental counseling on my tattoos was that my dad at the kitchen sink in there one day, and I come up and stood alongside of him and was doing something. Give me a little bit of advice, and it was so esoteric that you have to really look at it. He just said that sometimes a young man will do something in his youth that in later life will regret, or something in that order. I don't know just exactly how it was. So that was my counseling right there. And then my educational counseling was, he would say, I'll send the kid to any goddamn college or university he wants to go to. And that was it. Not the greatest in the world, because I dropped out of high school and saved him money. And I'm sure that didn't disappoint him in the least. But anyhow, and then there was I don't know even how it happened, but I know one time there was a mother that said something. It was like, and then I told you about my daughter's friend. She was up here for that barbecue and was telling about it. This gal is an ass kicker today. She's like, God, I can't. It's not Owada, but her last name. But my daughter will be in to find out. But she does those half Ironman that women do.
Oh, like the triathlon.
Bicycle, the swimming, and then what the hell's the other one?
Running, I think. Isn't it?
I think it's running. And she runs. She was out there just saying, "Oh, I guess she doesn't work. Her husband's a contractor." She said, "Oh, I just don't do nothing but go out and raise money." Because she goes out and runs these marathons for raising money for just, breast cancer, things like that. So, and then she's went to Hawaii and that one that's off Waikiki, that rough water swim.
Okay.
They had to, it got so goddamn rough. When she swam it, they had to come out there in helicopters and rescue them. She said she swam for over an hour, because I guess, I don't know if it's a built-in clock or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Swam over an hour, and she stuck her head up out to take a look, and she said, "I was no closer to that boy than when I started," or something. Last time she looked, I mean, they was making no progress. Right. So that's about the time I think she hailed a helicopter or something. You smoke weed?
I'm all right.
Okay. So travels, being most fortunate man, I get off the subject, but
that's all right.
It winds up that. So I was a professional tattoo artist, and probably professional into the sense that I thought of everything as like speed. I mean, we had military paydays and things those days, and you got a guy for 2 days, you got like people lined up, and then for 15 days or 30 days waiting for the next payday, you didn't have nobody. So you got to make, hay with them. Bert Grimm, he said the reason he was so fast, he said those Mississippi River boats are not in too long. And he was in St. Louis, Missouri. So, and that's an incentive to work fast.
Right.
And every time you push the person away and admire your work, it costs you $2. Yeah. So, but anytime that I had I got the shop properly staffed with a good manager, I was gone. I mean, when it was time for me to work, and a couple times I've fired everybody that worked for me and just worked by myself, and then sort of like built up a new crew, but they've got to the point that they wasn't any good to themselves. What the fuck do I want around?
Right.
So, so I would take off and travel, and what was my number one interest? Like tattooing has consumed my whole fucking life. I mean, I should be pissed off, devoured. Wait till I see my psychiatrist next. Don't have a psychiatrist, but I don't have very little tattoo stuff in the house.
Mm-hmm.
This is right now is the least humid place for that I have. People say, "Why do you hang it upside down?" And I said, "Well, because the hooks are rotted off the bottom, which should be the top." And I had it laying on the floor back over here, and I'd be a son of a bitch if people wouldn't walk in the front door. Walk in the front door and walk right over there and walk over thinking it was a rug. And one bastard wiped his feet on it. So this guy's name's Gus Wagner. You're welcome to use it if you ever want to mention this. It was Gus Wagner, no relation to Charlie Wagner, and in 1904 at the St. Louis World's Fair, and met this lady. And by 1910, he had her tattooed all over. Her name was Maud Stevens Wagner. So Maud Stevens was her maiden name, and you've probably seen pictures of her because she'll have a tiara with her hair up in the back and sort of a real stately looking woman. And so they got married, and I've got a picture, and the back view of this canvas is in the picture where I believe where this is at, it's a big picture, is rotted off. And it was in this same water damage. It was stored in a house in Kansas. So anyhow, so that was it's a picture that was taken in 1915. So that's the way I'm dating the picture.
Right.
You know, time. So that was painted between the time he tattooed her all over. Of course, she didn't have to be tattooed all over to get it painted, but still.
Yeah.
Um,
I want to get a photo of you in front of that later.
okay.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was actually when I walked in. I was like, "Why the hell's that upside down?" I don't mind my own business.
Well, and you know, and Charles Gatewood wrote that article. I call it jokingly "Skin and Paint," but skin and ink. And I don't know. He's got something there, but I've got a. I asked him to read the article, and so he did send it to me, and I didn't correct one goddamn thing in it. There was some things I wanted to correct in it, but I'm not. They were such little mistakes, and don't make them big rat's ass to me, and I don't want to be no prima donna.
Yeah.
I could have said something about some sense of humor or something that he had, but I thought, well, he thought it was funny at the time, and he's not scathing me, really. You know, not because they can. What the hell's that guy's name? He's an Englishman. I got a joke about I'm bisexual. If I can't get it free, I'll buy it. You know, this guy writes the goddamn thing in the interview, but he just goes down to the Lyle Tuttle states he's bisexual and ended the paragraph. The motherfucker.
Great.
So I called him up and I said, look, I said, if I get hit on, I'm sending them to you. And then also, it's coming out in a German magazine, you told me. Now, I want it corrected before it goes to Europe.
Go to Europe, yeah.
And I have nobody's ever said a word about that. So maybe people don't read that shit, or I intimidate them, or whatever it is. Again, it's great. I went and spent the weekend one time with Sid Diller.
Okay.
Sailor Sid.
Sailor Sid, yeah.
Houston, Texas. I think it was like 86 or something, and I had screwed around not making reservations, and I usually think that I'm little Lord Fauntleroy and I can go in and the promoters will have a room for me. Right. Wrong this time. And so I wound up, and it was a Thursday night. It was dead. Tattoo conventions weren't the big things they are today. I'm going to Pomona, the world's largest tattoo convention, in like a week and a half.
Right.
And so I said, well, I'm going to have to get on my horse, and we're in Texas, and ride down the road here and get myself a room because they're out here. And so Sailor Sid says, well, there's 2 queen-size beds in my room, but you probably wouldn't want to stay with me. And I said, Sid, you're a gentleman. I remember saying that back to him. So we sat around and talked for quite a while, and then everybody started splitting. I said, all right, Sid, let's go start some rumors. So I spent the weekend with him up there. The words sex in any form was never mentioned in that room between us. I mean, it was like, we both skirted the subject, I'm sure. And he was so happy that I stayed with him that he wouldn't I offered to pay him like in the weekend my half. And he's, oh no, don't worry about it. But I got hit on by 3 guys that weekend. One of them was at Dr. Lemus.
I don't know.
He's the guy that pissed Ed off so bad about putting out a book about tattoo facts a long time ago in the early 70s, and sort of quoted Ed or something.
Okay.
And so Ed quit tattooing him, and then Raven picked him up and started tattooing him. He was a doctor. His name was Lemus, Lemes, I think. Well, he hit on me, but I mean, that was, I probably hadn't noticed, but it's when they quit hitting on you, the time that you want to start worrying. There was so many characters in the tattoo business, I mean, really righteous characters, that it was fun, you know. Now, I guess maybe those characters are there, but they're off with it. I don't know, I just hard to warm up my friendship with a guy that's wearing goddamn skateboard pants. You know, the shorts and then the ass of the pants come down just about to the hem of the legs. I was telling them we're out, and I'm just sort of joking about that in a way. But it's, a bunch of us go out to dinner. I said, all right, just remember I'm your parole officer. And that's what everybody else is going to think.
Yeah. The principal of the high school.
I'd rather be their goddamn parole officer, because they all got tattoos hanging out. Well, you're not conservative. I see them in their hair. And now, poor Ralph Johnstone, he had his hands tattooed, and he had a panther across his throat, and he had a frog of some kind that was on the back of his head, and then his hair got real light.
Oh.
So he was hot shit in the tattoo shop. It was normal, but the minute he hit the door, he always wore oversized sport coats. Mm-hmm. And this is back in the day when everybody wore sport coats. I mean, there was some kind of a clothing code. I think I was attracted to San Francisco more than I was to tattooing at the time. I mean, I went down to San Francisco because it was like, this is you got to classify this as a rural community out here. Loggers and stuff. They used to have a lot of trees right before they murdered them all. And so San Francisco was suave and sophisticated. Then I started coming up here to Ukiah all the time, and here they're driving like big four-wheel drive pickups, and they've got Jordache jeans on, and they went down and they had their hair blow dried, and everybody in Frisco looked like a fucking buffalo hunter. And what a rude awakening, you know? But everything I found charming about San Francisco back then don't interest me in the least now. You know, it's I went down for the raunchier side of life, I guess is what I used to sort of halfway say. And it was because my parents were conservative and were both born on a farm in Iowa. And so they were conservative Iowa farmers. And they say you're not raised by your mother, you're raised by your grandmother. So that would be my great-great-grandmother they was being raised by. And because her philosophy's passed off to the child. So, but to let me go down there at 14 was quite a deal. Not to raise holy hell about me coming home with a tattoo. My mom said, oh, I saw that, because I waited for it to heal up. Because that's the one thing that individual colors and individual steam sterilization, there was never one that I know of, other than one that supposedly happened in 1876 about the transmission of syphilis, where a tattoo artist was caught, tried, and convicted of it.
Really?
And that was back in the old hand poke days. And the guy, they had the habit of wetting the dry pigment with saliva on the needles. And the guy tattooed somebody that was syphilitic. He got a chancre, chancroid. That's the first stages of syphilis. That's where the spirochete enters the skin, and it causes an ulceration. Then after it's established itself, it goes internal, then that chancroid will heal up. And so he's sitting there, I guess, putting it right in that ulceration and hand poking. And I don't know, I've seen it in print, but it wasn't actual print of the day, like a newspaper or something, and it's been quoted many times, but I'm sure that it happened, or well, everything in the world's happened at one time or another. So, but there was never any, even when we was working with sponge and buckets, God, I call that the good old days. I mean, I'd be sitting there tattooing next to the bus station, and this is between 60 and, God, I don't even know what year we switched over. I know when, just as I moved into that tattoo shop on 7th Street, we became aware of hygiene. I mean, because New York City had been just outlawed. And, you know, doctors go to college to learn how, and they teach them in college how to sterilize, and they teach them about germs and stuff like that. There's nobody who teaches us that stuff. We had to teach ourselves. You know, so I've always been proud of the tattoo community by grabbing themselves by the bootstraps and pulling themselves up out of the mud.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a more conscientious bunch of gutter snipes in the whole wide world.
Right.
Because they love what they do so intensely that they overamp. They overdo it. I was at Ink Slinger's Ball, and there was a guy tattooing down there in a plastic bubble,
Yeah.
and he had some kind of a breathing device on it, and he'd have to holler at people through the plastic bubble. Oh, Jesus Christ, he went to one of APT's airborne pathogens business, you know. But I went to one of those also, because I volunteered when the APT started. I was retired. I wasn't tattooing. And in fact, I was on like a hiatus for a few years. And I stopped back and seen the woman who founded it. And they were friends and spent a couple days there. And she talked me into going out. And she'd sent me all the propaganda on joining it. But I was retired. I didn't need to join it.
Right.
I maybe should have on a support basis, but you know, I'm cheap. And so I went out and did a seminar that I got out of my collection called Shit Pits. And it was a slideshow on just foul operation, or the way it was before. It wasn't foul then.
Right.
No rubber gloves. That's the last thing that we did. Now to think about it, that hand right there has been under zillions of goddamn rotten armpits. You know, I was going to do a cartoon one time, and it showed a guy, a tattoo artist, so the customer would be here, and he'd have his hand out like this, and the fucking hand is just gnarled and black and smoking, and he's saying, what kind of deodorant are you using? Because... So there was no big tattoo epidemics and everything else. Those were the good old days. It'd be somebody, I'd be tattooing somebody'd run in, I gotta catch a bus in 10 minutes. I'm gonna be busy for half hour. God, it's only 10 minutes. And I said, get under here. And I just go ahead and put a line on there. I've generally always established a contour line, you know, fore and aft, and then always a center line. Because being in a hurry, and if you don't establish that center line, you can get in trouble. People talk about freehand tattoo artists. I've only known of two. I know of another one supposedly, but he didn't work freehand. Ronnie Akers, you've heard of him over in England?
Heard of him. I've seen Pinky do it.
Well, now Pinky would be a third one, but I haven't been around Pinky that much.
He freehanded on me.
Okay, well, no, a dragon or something?
Tiger, yeah. Dragons and tigers.
That is an artistic talent, that's tricks. But yeah, God, I mean, Pinky, I don't know where the hell we got together at, but we flew on the same plane to, no, wait a minute. Maybe we did, it must have been the same plane. The same plane over and back to Italy. And, you know.
For the 85?
80
Roma?
Yeah. Something about the
zebra show.
Zebra, the horse, dumb fucking name for but, you know. Oh, they had a tattoo, but they got it from a Hardy.
Yeah.
In a private appointment. You know, they didn't have no drunken Yokohama tattoos. I just figured out the other day how they're talking about old school. Now there's people that call it old skull. The dumb bastards don't even know how to spell school. But it wound up that old school. I heard Paul Booth say, well, us old school guys, and I fucking hear, you know, what is it, hyperventilating. I didn't even know I was laughing. Hey, that's good. of a cherry. I have got, the reason I went switched over, this is a transitional computer, a couple of years old. And it was going from one, these are the best, those are Bings, I don't know what those are called, Lamberts, I think. But eat those red ones, I've had a bunch of them. They are the best. The Bing is like, it's medium. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cherries is my favorite fruit. But I've got 2 or 3 pages, I think it's 2 pages, of, I haven't done it in a long time, but I love to scan information to this thing. This thing's got 60 gigs in it. And then I got 120 backup. And then this little bastard here. That's 60 gigs Firewire. And you just plug the bastard in, and it just automatically starts backing up. It just backs everything up. But I'm now getting the dialog box. I haven't got much memory left in this, but I don't know what I want to give up. But I was going to show you some of my shit pit pictures. And then I've got a bucket that I bought a tattoo. A guy went home one time from Monterey, California. He went home. While he was home that weekend, he died. And so I knew the guy that ran the arcade he stuff is, and he said, George De Silva died, and you want to buy his tattoo stuff? And I said, God, I haven't got the money right now, because I was raising kids, making house payments, all that. I fell into fucking crap like everybody else. And so he said, well, I'll talk to the widow and see what I can get it for you for. So he calls me up and he says, can you come up with $150? I got like 22 tattoo machines, all that flash off the walls. I mean, God damn, it was a travesty. This was about 3 months after George had died. Sitting right by his chair, that whole tattoo shop, just the way he folded the lap cloth up and put it over the back chair. And so I dumped that bucket out when I was moving, and there was about 200 rings in it. Because he didn't have a place to rinse it out. Couldn't get it to some bitch in the sink, in the bathroom, and maybe the arcade didn't have a bathroom or something. Anyhow, he had just dumped it out, put new water in it, and generally it was green soap. And a lot of people would use saffron chloride. I did for years, and then somebody told me one day that was like a doctor or somebody in the know, at least, that that tincture green soap or whatever it is, that'll kill that saffron chloride. Well, it kept me happy for years. Because thinking you're doing good is just as good as doing good, isn't it?
But no problems came up about all that stuff anyways, you know what I mean? Yeah.
No epidemics.
Yeah, it was no problem anyways.
Then 1960 hit. New York City went down. And that's when I first started getting my first publicity, was in 1960. I mean, that's very sparse. So in looking at of what's changed the face of tattooing today, it's this is shit that's going to be in my book. I'm not writing no fucking books, because to write is not to live, because you're reliving. At least that's my excuse. Or my other answer is no content. No content. What the fuck you want to waste your time on that one? The first time that tattooing ever got goddamn worldwide mention in the press, in the media, was when New York City went down. The 5 boroughs in New York City was outlawed. The homologous serous hepatitis B, they're up to H now, or something like that. But I remember they used to call it, you never heard the word hepatitis. It was yellow jaundice, you know?
Yeah.
And so it got upset in San Francisco, but you know, you're thinking about a domino effect. And I'd be the last guy they took out, because I'd probably the furthest westerly tattoo artist, other than if somebody was in Alaska. There was nobody up there then, but so everybody got in and they started looking in their own direction. There was no communication. There was no nothing. But what happened was that so that press started at the top and trickled down instead of going up the other way. And so I guess news editors or something in local newspapers would send some reporter out to dig up some more dirt about these tattoo artists, and they'd go down there and run across Doc Forbes at Vancouver, media friendly, really media friendly. I was in San Francisco, media friendly, you know. Very few tattoo artists were.
Right.
So that now you started getting locally an article that's done on sort of a personal interest basis instead of like, you know, because that reporter goes back and he said, God damn, there's a story there, you know, and tattooing is so powerful that it turned a negative, a heavy negative, into a positive. And then 6 years later, in Chicago, Illinois, there was a guy who killed and raped 6 nurses. And he had tattooed on his arm a devil with "Born to Raise Hell" around. That was Richard Speck. So there was a few people come in and wanted the same tattoo. I mean, wanted to duplicate it. I mean, what fucking, you know. But here's tattooing mentioned in a big level, national. I mean, it was in everything.
Right.
People forget pretty quick. But tattooing was mentioned, and it was in the printed word is the most powerful word there is. You could, television, radio, that stuff, it's there and it's gone and never remembered. But the printed word just is there. And that helped tattooing right along. So here was 2 negatives that were turned into positives. And then the magic thing happened. Women's liberation. All of a sudden, one day, the 50% of the human race was opened up. I mean, our base of business operation was doubled within a matter of a few months, and tattoos are ideal for women. They paint their toenails, they curl their hair, and they augment everything in between, one way or the other. And so guys just get tattooed to look tough down at the pool hall, but women get tattooed because they'll sit there and talk to you about vitamins and exercise, and they don't smell like oil. And so when they came along, that was a perfect marriage, and I love to do little tiny tattoos because I like to do anything fast.
There you go.
And it was ideal. So it just made my whole life, because it's back to that most fortunate man in the world business. So now this gave me the opportunity to staff my shop properly and be gone. So that's when I would take trips to Samoa and all over, you know, researching tattooing. But, you know, I wasn't researching as much as I was down there, just sucking in the ambiance, because it was a personal thing.
But I think
I took pictures.
That's what I mean, though. That was what was, like, now if someone does it, it's not that big a deal because you did it then. So I think that's what made it research. You might have been just going for your own reasons.
Exactly.
But because, you know, I mean, we all have seen that photo of you with your long hair getting tattooed in Samoa. You know, and like, so, I mean, then now, years later, I'm asking you about it, you know? So, I mean, but that's the kind of thing, like, you know, I don't think, you probably didn't think you were being groundbreaking at the time, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, the reason I went down there was, I'm tattooing down there in 7th Street.
Mm-hmm.
This is, let's see. I opened a tattoo shop up July 1st, 1960, next to the Greyhound bus station. But before that, I'd been over in an arcade, and then I went down and was down at 139 7th Street, which was a block down from the bus station, and tattooed down there for about 6 months, waiting to get this location. I finally bugged this guy into this location. It was the best fucking tattoo
Fucking location in the world?
best fucking location in the world. It was upstairs too, and so you get rid of the looky-loos. But I learned some, you know, upstairs locations. I put my tattoo shop over after I bought that building in Columbus Avenue, so I had 2 there in the city for a while. It went up and turned, and it was a narrower staircase because it was like a residential flat type of building. It alienated people. But 7th Street had a stairway that was about 3.5 foot wide, and 29 steps that had a landing, and you looked up there, and it was brightly lit up on top and everything else. It just sucked you up them stairs.
Oh, okay.
And then plus I had some friendly signs on the stairs. Like the first one said, "Do not run." And then the next one said, "No food or drink." And then the last one said, I still have those signs, "No dogs or personal checks." And then another sign, and I still got it too, of course, was just one that hung out over the door that said, "Tattoo." And then down below in smaller letters it said, "While you wait." And believe it or not, that got some goddamn publicity a few times. Because people, you know, like reporters get a kick out of it. I mean, it was, and so everything was, well, it's all psychology. Sales psychology, personal psychology. So that covered my travels pretty much. So I would, you know, but true, I was trying to be good to it, be a researcher, but not being out of the academic world and sort of tough. But I took pictures in Samoa, but I think there's probably more from coming back and looking at myself. And then also, the gal that I was traveling with was a photographer. Well, she was a model actually, and but it's such a pain in the ass being sleeping with somebody that's in the biz of some kind, because they go to show ups and they don't get the job, and they come home and they're funk, and you got to deal with the funk. Well, I told her, I said, and she could turn on in front of a camera. You break a camera out, and she just
Right.
And those professionals they were that way, you know. I've went and posed with models, and there'd be like 100 pictures there, and she looks good in all 100 pictures. I look good in maybe one, you know. So anyhow, I said, if you can turn them on, if you can turn on in front of the camera, why can't you turn them on if you're in back of the camera? And so she's become a well-known photographer, and so I had her with me, and she's about that big around anyhow. And them Samoans say, "Send her home. We'll fix you a real woman." They just thought I was my taste in women. I was just a dork. Look at this guy here. See?
Oh shit, you got tattoos on his
His name's Lyle too. Oh, fucking things. You know something? I'm such a dinosaur. Everybody says he's such a nice guy and everything else. I think he runs a framing shop in town. I absolutely run when I see him. Because that tattooing on the face bugs me. I mean, there has to be some type of insanity there. I'm talking about where I came from, my time and space. Mm-hmm. Nobody else's. I'm only speaking for myself. We're only products of our environment.
Yeah, of course.
That just it frightens me. It's too weird. I mean, that Tracy was here today. He's starting to get heavily tattooed. You know, he promotes that show, and he's doing that one in San Francisco and everything. I told him, don't go through all that goddamn torture, getting drilled all that shit, getting a tattoo on. Just get a fucking moco and end it. Get your face covered. Back in my day, there was people that would tattoo you on the hands. Mm-hmm. You know, and there was some drunks that would tattoo you in the face too. Probably didn't give a shit. I mean, they just wanted to make a buck. But to be a tattoo artist, you got to have a conscience, and you really should.
Yeah.
And because what you do to people lasts them a lifetime. I mean, you're altered their fucking life forever. Now with lasers. But I guess the laser hurts about 10 times worse.
It takes a long time.
And I can't visualize anything hurting worse, 10 times worse than a tattoo. I mean, that must feel fairly bad. And it depends where it's at. It's all hooked to the same central nervous system, but god damn, there is some spots that...
Yeah.
Oh, Ed was going over there to have Horiyoshi the second tattoo on him. And I told him, well, first of all, and I'd watched him tattoo. Uh-huh. I says, first of all, you better give that old turd that tattoo machine tuning lesson. Because he did goddamn gorgeous work.
Right.
But boy, he put people through the numbers. Because they was paying. He had a young Yakuza in there one night that was laying down. He had a butch haircut, the whole business. He had a finger that was all scabbed on the end. He was a fuck up in some direction.
Right.
And he was laying down and he was going up here, and the muscles in that guy's back was actually rippling, trying to get away from that goddamn needle. Huh?
Yeah.
And I mean, this was a tough kid that was laying there too. But, because they had taken square back Joneses and thrown the dual coils away, and they had put in goddamn AC solenoid, that the type that has it's like a W, and the one coil fits over the middle leg, right? And then it had a jury-rigged flat spring on it, and then it had and it's AC, and so to keep from hysteresis, from heating it up, they use laminated cores and laminated armature bar. Well, it sounded like as bad as a Cindy Ray machine. And they run. Well, it's the same thing. And believe it or not, that when the Australian Natural History Museum Cindy Ray was an Australian girl, and was a figurehead for a tattoo empire in the 60s, and so they also had a supply business, and they had these Cindy Ray machines. Mm-hmm. Well, they wanted to have that and a power supply in their show in Canberra. They couldn't find one of those in Australia. Now, Tony Cohen did, but he said I told him to buzz off or something. He wouldn't lend it to him. But in looking through all the records and everything, it was like most of that stuff had went to Japan. So there might be some they're buzzing around in Japan yet. But I'm sure those, goddamn mechanically, astute people. So I'm sure that they're running some top of the line stuff over there, but not. Well, I haven't been over there a long time. But I know that Hardy fucked Nakano. He tattooed me. Well, he went from, it's not much. It ends with 85 down here, and it says.
Oh yeah, I can see the. Yeah, I can see the.
Well, you read
Daime Horiyoshi right here.
Okay.
In Japanese.
And then made in Rome.
Oh.
Made in Rome, 85.
Okay.
Because he was doing mantras. So I told him, so he's interpreted, because at that time, if he's speaking English now, or a little smattering.
It's like a little now, so back then it must have been next to nothing.
Oh, yes, totally. And I speak a little Japanese, but I got to be 3/4 full of sake to start holding halfway conversations, or a few tequila and grapefruit juices or something.
Right.
But, so I made an appointment with him that night after dinner. and it, it's not a long drawn out appointment. I told him, for a mantra. So when I got over there, I said, I want no prayers for me. Mantra. He looked at me like, what the fuck are you talking about? I mean, because he's just copying them out of books. I think I told you about that on the phone.
Yeah.
And so that's when I just said, "Bah, put your name on there, made in Rome in '85." It's a drunken Yokohama tattoo. It's not nothing serious.
Yeah. We got to keep it fun.
Exactly, and it's a commemoration.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was a bonding thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also learned something valuable that night. He tattoos with like a chopstick, big old long thing, and the needle's on the end. It holds it on the end, guides it over his thumb back here. And Hardy's taking pictures, and I looked at Ed and I said, "Has he started yet?" Because I'm turning around backwards here. And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, shit. No wonder they get tattooed all over." Because it wasn't bad. Of course, imagine if you lay there for 4, 5, 6 hours or something.
The handphone, I mean, for me, like on my back, it was almost like scratching in some spots. Like, it was almost nice.
Yeah.
But I tell you, on my ribs, it was...
hand poke.
It bruised around. Like, I would much rather gone machine on my ribs.
Okay.
It's like, yeah.
Well, that poor Hardy went over there and got tattooed with
nice, but...
Horiosi the second,
Uh-huh.
the old man. 26 hours.
Oof.
26 hours. So Hardy, he's tougher than hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked for about a half hour the other day when what is this thing doing now? One thing about it is this used to be a real quiet residential street. I woke up this morning and there's a diesel truck out here that was waiting to go in over here. The engine's down in front of these people's houses. I guess the reason they didn't complain was they're old and they can't hear. I finally put on my bathrobe and went out there, and it was a woman. And I'd say she's probably about 50 years old. I bet she's a grandmother.
Right.
She's traveling by herself, and she's in this big son of a bitch, and she backed that thing in out here. And I went up and I said, "What are you doing with that engine running in front of my house?" 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And she went, I said, this happens to be a residential area. And I forgot. I said, yeah. And she starts getting out of the truck and coming out, and she'd already turned it off. And I said, "Look, you listen to that thing run day and night all the time. And then those reefers right in back of them. So they'll come in and they forget." And then she started following me up the goddamn sidewalk here, like thanking me. And I say, "Hey, everybody's got to, sometimes we forget. Everybody's got to get along." So, but it was really funny. It flabbergasted her. I went out and admonished her lightly, and then took it so easy. But what there's getting excited just generally fucking does you more harm than it does anybody else.
Always.
I was going out of the hotel back in Philly, and R.J. Rosini used to get drunk, and he was checking out a hotel. I don't know if he was drunk or just being himself. Anyhow, he's beating on the counter at the hotel clerk saying, "You don't know who I am." So I hollered back at, "Who the fuck are you, R.J.?" Then I got the R.J. Rosini Award, Vancouver, Washington this year.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, "Do I have to be drunk and obnoxious for the next year until somebody else gets this thing?" Because he didn't die at that convention. So I told him, if I die this year, it's going to fuck your convention up. And you're not going to be getting anybody in over about 25. He died over that weekend. They got that R.J. Rosini Award together so goddamn fast that weekend they give it to somebody. I'm the second recipient of it. He died a year ago. Now that's fast action.
Yeah.
Because you think about stuff, and it was a good idea, but Jesus Christ, what an honorarium. I used to do this book, let's call it a pamphlet. Tattoo 70, have you ever saw that?
Mm-mm.
The little historical thing, journal I put out. What did you want to call it? Anyhow, it was more of a pamphlet size, so I was not a writer, I was a pamphleteer in Thomas Paine. And that's the first 11 issues of it right there. And so anyhow, they all had 44 pages. It's a long story how I got to be that size of format. I had this one page left, and I had to get something on that page, and we can tell I suffer with hoary vacui. That's every goddamn, that's just a gag, an abhorrence to open space. So anyhow, that's, I had this one page, I didn't want to waste it frivolously, because I only had 44 to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary Jane Hockey calls me up and says, in the morning, says, Julie Grimm died last night. And I says, good, I don't know what to do with that page. She's always giving me the raspberries about saying that. But I was relieved, man. I had something to do with that page. And it's in there. That's a little, let's see, I don't know what's out exactly, but I'll show you the ad that I'm talking about. It was, I went down, I took the 11 issues. Well, this is 10 issues, I think. Mm-hmm. But I did 11 altogether. And it ceased being fun. I can't do anything unless it's fun. This must have been a goddamn bad news day here. I did that whole page with her. And she's, I guess she's mentioned here.
Oh, yeah.
I got 2 of these, 2 different poses. And that's, there's a guy down in San Francisco who was a Japanese print expert. He knew the stories, he could read the things, and he was an Occidental too. And so he wrote these stories about all these. I got a lot of them. I got one of them that I think it's the Kyoto School, which is, they did them in relief.
When were you putting these together?
What year?
Yeah.
The first one, I think the first one I put out was in November of '82.
Oh, okay.
And I had one down on the Queen Mary. And people said, is it an annual, a monthly, or, is it a monthly? I told them, biannual and all that stuff. I told them it was a subsequental.
That's fucking cool, though.
But, it came out when, God damn it, I got one out. And I have put one out for a long time. It absolutely ceased being fun, and I hand pasted every one of them bastards up, and this is in the day, this is pre-computer, this is in the day when you had to deal with this awesome, goddamn venomous person called a typesetter. I mean, death the typesetters, and there isn't such a thing in the world anymore, I don't think, is there? What did they wind up doing for a living?
It's all, everything's computer now,
I know, but what happened to typesetters? I mean, I don't know if you ever dealt with them or not.
It's like the weird thing, like those thermofax machines. If it wasn't for tattoo shops, who would buy those? They're like refurbished from like old, you always buy them used from like school districts.
Well, in '95, I went over and did that Moscow convention. And I wanted something that was unique for a business card or something. I dislocated my wrist this year. I had to get that ring cut off. And it was, for some reason, the finger's swollen up there, and I'm just sort of spreading it. And I went to the doctor that operated on it yesterday, and he was monkeying around with it. He did a shitty job. God damn it, most of the doctors up here are 7-day Adventists. I love it. I cuss. I'm the worst guy in town when I get around them Jesus jumpers. I cuss. It just brings it. They bring it out of me. It's their fault. What the hell did I took these to a convention somewhere, and then I went to another convention, and I'd lost them by then. So I had them on the Queen Mary. That's my 2004 business card. It has my email address on it. The year that it was put out, my snail mail address, my cell phone number, and my sexual preference. People, where? I know.
That's funny.
It's that Libra sign. So keep that.
Wow, thank you.
And everybody knows
Nice.
where my business card's at.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I wanted to something. Well, this was in 95, and I didn't start using these till 96. So I needed something, and so I was out here at the flea market, and I'd never seen them before, and there was things called Pogs.
Oh, yeah.
They had just quit using them goddamn bottled milk, and they're thinking, God, we can buy all this equipment. What the fuck are we going to do with it? So they invented the game Pogs. So I would take the Pogs and I bought a whole raft of them, and you can get them skulls and all that stuff on them, and I just rolled them over and just autographed them and put the date, put Moscow, and handed them out like souvenirs.
Yeah.
And then I went and bought some metal and took a vibra tool and engraved on the back of them with signed it and put the date in Moscow on it, and you hammered those out to, special people. Like your premier of Russia or something. Didn't get one because the bastard didn't show up.
You're going to see them things on eBay. People are going to be bidding on them. Well, Lyle Tuttle, signed Pog.
Now that would be something, huh?
I bet you it's already on there by now.
I once in a while, I go on eBay every day, and once in a while I'll go up on, and I'll put my name in, but then I do Tuttles, because I collect stuff that's manufactured by Tuttles. I think that's must be the height of goddamn egotism, isn't it? I'm collecting stuff that's, but it's not a totally rare name. I mean, everybody's heard of a Tuttle somewhere along the line, but it still isn't that many Tuttles running around. And then when I was a kid, there was a woman across the road, and I was preschool. They didn't have kindergarten in those days, but the first grade you started off. And her name was Lyle, spelt the same fucking way. And even the testosterone hadn't even started to pump yet, but that sort of hurt my feelings. And I remember telling my folks one time, "Why didn't you call me Billy?" Or some goddamn thing like that. But then it proved out professionally as an ideal name. Just couldn't get anything more middle America.
Right.
Country Bumpkin.
Well, it's got a good ring to it,
It does. Well, I knew that.
Easy to remember. And,
the girl that I was telling you about that was the model type. Her name was Robin Ryan, her real name. So, and we lived in Hollywood together, Lyle Tuttle and Robin Ryan, and I mean, that sounded like just two big phony names, But I knew that it was a wiener when somebody asked me what my real name was one time, and I've been asked that before. So, but the first time that somebody asked me, it sort of set me back. And I thought, well, hey, maybe. Now I'll say, well, my real name, because 90% of those rumors out there about me, I started.
Thank you to this week's sponsors, Eternal Ink and Machine Co. And a huge thank you to Taki Kitamura, who provided us all with this fantastic interview with the late, great Lyle Tuttle. Now, this is only the first part of this interview, so if you check out this week's extended episode coming at you on Wednesday, you can hear the rest of this conversation. So if you were into this as much as I was, there'll be more on Wednesday. If you're inclined, let Taki know how much you enjoyed this interview. All of his contact info will be in the show notes. Or head over to State of Grace Tattoo with a lunch or maybe a bouquet of flowers to show him your appreciation in person. I'm Andrew Stortz, and you can follow me on Instagram at Andrew Stortz, Stortz. If you want to keep up with the show, booksclosedpodcast.com. It's got it all, with videos and photos, everybody's info. You can even buy some merch, because it's holiday season, and if you know someone, even if it's yourself, who loves this podcast, you can buy a shirt or a pin or something. And that's a great way to support the show as well. So thank you in advance, my friends. So like I said, don't miss the rest of this Lyle Tuttle interview this Wednesday on the extended episode 29. And other than that, I will see you all again here next time.